I just backtrack a little bit to where we sort of started in terms of creating this, the right climate, the right environment, the right context for you to work as a coach. I want to create an environment where kids are focusing on mastery and a task environment. So they're self-referenced. So in terms of competence, I'm not looking at my performance and comparing my level of competence to the rest of the group. Because if I do that as a kid, I'm always going to recognise that there are going to be kids that are better than me. And yes, we can argue that that's good for competition and it's good that we aspire, but also there's going to be kids within the group that will see, I'm not as good as that kid, I'm never going to be as good as that kid, I'm just not going to bother. Whereas if I'm doing it internally against myself, then hopefully I'm thinking, right, I did this last week, I need to improve on this, and I'm only comparing myself against my own performance. It's going to be about individual effort and improvement. It's about personal development and cooperative learning. So learning with each other, learning with the coach, the teacher. I think the problem is if we go the other way, we develop these ego climates or ego environments. We're always looking at other people. We do create these hierarchies where there's going to be a level of sort of hierarchical performance. It's going to cause rivalry. It might cause some bad sort of attitudes within kids. And it's probably going to be low tolerance for mistakes because it's going to be about being the best and being about improvement. If you as a coach can create the right motivational climate that allows a mastery task environment to develop, you're going to have kids that are turning up that are self-determined. They want to get better for themselves. They're intrinsically motivated. They have a sense of belonging because they feel part of something. They feel part of a group. They like you as a coach and a teacher. You're going to create the right positive learning environment for them to learn. And they're not only going to learn what you're teaching them, they're also going to learn significant life skills. So they're going to learn about how to work with each other. They're going to learn about fair play. They're going to learn about appropriate behaviour. And again, that comes down to you as a coach creating that environment. Okay, I just wanted to touch on here that some of you might have heard of this before, some of you might be unfamiliar with it, but in coaching, there's two types of ways that we can coach, or two types of environments that we might create as coaches. There's one called deliberate play, and there's one called deliberate practice. If I'm a coach now that wants kids to improve performance, I'm going to do what we call deliberate practice. So I'm going to put kids in an environment whereby it might not necessarily be enjoyable. It's going to be very, very structured. It's going to require the optimal resourcing in terms of equipment and coaching. It's going to require that we identify talented kids at an early age. And it's going to be very, very physical and psychological strain on kids. And that's what we call a deliberate practice environment. So within football and rugby academies at the minute, that's the environment that exists. The opposite of that is that we create what we call a deliberate play environment. So it's enjoyable, it's fun, requires minimal resources. It isn't about selecting the best kids at an early age, it's about inclusion. It's not necessarily about physical and technical and tactical development, although that's a part of it. Now there's a train of thought out there which suggests that if we want to get kids to be elite athletes, some of the research suggests that we have to go down a deliberate practice route. However, what happens with that is that we probably get kids that become demotivated, disengaged, at an early age because they don't find it enjoyable. It doesn't provide the right environment for them to learn in. The research out there at the minute suggests that if we want kids to become elite athletes or stay involved in sport for the lifelong, then a deliberate play environment is probably the best. So irrespective of whether kids are good athletes or not so good athletes, the evidence would suggest that we create these deliberate play environments, that we set up environments where it's about fun, enjoyment, requires minimal resourcing, it's about inclusion, and it's not necessarily about skill instruction. It's about just letting kids play. And I think for you guys as coaches, if you go into a school environment and you think, I'm going to create this deliberate practice environment, so it's about performance, not enjoyable, very technical, tactical, physical, focusing on talent, then that's more of this ego-orientated environment. We're probably going to develop environments where kids don't engage, don't want to participate, and we're not going to develop the appropriate life skills. If we develop environments where it's focused on deliberate play, it's about engagement, it's about inclusion, it's about holistic child-centered development, then hopefully what will happen, we will get kids coming from there that will become talented athletes because they will develop appropriately. But if they don't become talented athletes, they're going to stay involved in sport because we've motivated them appropriately. We've developed their competence and confidence. So again, if we're going to create these right environments, you can either go down the route of a deliberate play or deliberate practice approach.